The wind howled across the battlefield, carrying the scent of blood, smoke, and iron. I could still hear the echoes of clashing swords and war cries, though the battle had ended. Or at least, that was what I thought. My body ached, muscles trembling from exhaustion, but my mind was sharp, alert. Victory had been ours. Chang, my husband, my partner, had won the civil war with my strategy and my soldiers. I had given everything for him. My loyalty, my command, my life. I had followed him into countless skirmishes, outmaneuvered entire armies with precision, and bled alongside my men. And yet, that night, as we returned to the palace, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter wind. Chang met me at the threshold, his smile calm, almost gentle. "Welcome home, my warrior," he said, taking my hand. "The war is over. Tonight, we celebrate." I smiled back, though suspicion prickled at the edges of my mind. Something was off. His guard stood unusually close, silent and imposing. I should have realized, should have trusted my instincts, but love makes fools of the sharpest minds. That night, in the private chamber, I thought we would share our victory, our lives entwined after years of bloodshed and battle. He poured me wine, his fingers brushing mine. "To us," he said. "To peace. To a future together." I drank, my eyes searching his. "To us," I echoed. Then the doors slammed open. His elite guards, silent and deadly, surrounded me. I froze, every muscle tense. "Chang, what is this?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the panic rising in my chest. He stepped forward, his smile gone, replaced by a cold, hard expression I had never seen before. "Anchi, my warrior queen," he said softly, almost mockingly. "You have served me well, but power cannot be shared." The word struck me like a blade. I understood instantly. All those years, my loyalty, my victories, they had been nothing to him. A tool. A stepping stone. "Chang, you would betray me?" I whispered, disbelief twisting my stomach. He laughed, dark and hollow. "I would do what any man must to claim the throne. The war is over, Anchi. Only one ruler can sit at the top." I drew my sword in a heartbeat, instincts honed by years of battle. "You think you can kill me in my own chamber?" I spat, rage and hurt fueling my movements. The guards didn't hesitate. They closed in. Steel met steel, as I fought with all the fury of a woman betrayed. But there were too many. Too fast. Too precise. Even I, with every skill, every tactic I had mastered, could not overcome them all. Chang watched, calm, detached, as I struggled. "You were always fierce," he said. "That is why I chose you. But it ends tonight." Pain exploded through me as a sword pierced my side. I fell to my knees, gasping, my blood staining the polished floor. Rage burned through the haze of pain. "You coward!" I screamed. "You'll never win my soul." And then darkness swallowed me. But death was not the end. I woke with the taste of iron on my tongue and the ache of 1,000 wounds in my body. My eyes snapped open, and I was on a battlefield. Smoke curled into the gray sky, banners torn, horses screaming, men shouting. My pulse raced, muscles tense. My hands instinctively gripped my sword, but something was wrong. This was not my deathbed. This was the war, a year before it had ended. I blinked, trying to steady myself. The memory of Chang's betrayal hit me all over again, fresh and scorching. The wine, the guards, his calm, cruel face. And yet here I was. Alive. Reborn. I rose, scanning the battlefield. Soldiers fell around me, arrows slicing the air. My mind, trained for strategy, went immediately to survival. I needed to understand where I was, what forces were at play, and most importantly, how I could change the course of this war and my fate. "Anchi," a voice shouted. I turned to see a young lieutenant waving, blood streaking his uniform. "General, the enemy flanks are collapsing." I clenched my jaw. "Hold your line," I commanded, my voice steady even as my heart thudded. "Do not let them breach the ridge." The lieutenant hesitated, then obeyed. I moved among my soldiers, giving precise instructions, my presence igniting their courage. I was a warrior reborn, not just in body, but in mind. Every strategy one had used in the past life, every tactic that had brought victory, I could now anticipate and adjust. But my mind kept drifting back to him.
Chang.
My husband. My murderer. The man whose betrayal had cost me everything. And now he would still rise to power if I did nothing. I had a second chance, yes, but the price of failure would be even higher this time. I could not allow my fate to be repeated. Hours later, as the battle quieted, I found myself near a small hill where the smoke cleared. A figure approached, tall, calm, carrying the air of quiet authority. His robes were scholarly, not military. Yet there was something in his eyes, a spark of intelligence, a glimmer of patience and caution, that made me stop in my tracks. "You fight well," he said, his voice gentle but commanding. "I am Cui Yan." I narrowed my eyes. A scholar? On the battlefield? My tone was sharp, but curiosity pricked at me. He smiled faintly. A scholar is often more dangerous than a soldier. Strategy is not only in the sword, it is in the mind. I studied him. He was not like the men I had served with or the ones I had fought against. He radiated calm and foresight. Something told me he was not Chang's ally, or if he was, he would be impossible to manipulate. "I have no time for pleasantries," I said, circling, assessing him as one might a horse before a ride. "The war is not over." "And yet it is," Cui Yan said quietly. "The outcome is written in the mistakes of men who underestimate women like you." His eyes lingered on me, almost knowingly. "I have long wanted to meet you, Anchi. Perhaps we were meant to change history together." A chill ran down my spine. This was no ordinary scholar. He could be the ally I needed, someone whose cunning matched my military mind, someone who could help me topple Chang before he consolidated his power. I clenched my fists. My second life had begun. And this time, Chang would not have the chance to betray me again. Night had fallen, and the battlefield was silent save for the crackle of distant fires. I crouched on a ridge, surveying the scattered remnants of Chang's army. My heart was still pounding from the day's skirmishes, but my mind was sharper than ever. I had survived betrayal once. I would not make the same mistake twice. Cui Yan stepped beside me, his presence quiet yet commanding. He didn't carry a sword, yet I could feel the weight of his intelligence pressing down like armor. "You should not be here alone," he said softly, glancing at my hands still smeared with blood. "I am not alone," I replied sharply, eyes never leaving the enemy lines. "I have my soldiers, and soon I will have more." He nodded. "You have always been a warrior, but battles are not won by swords alone." I turned to him, eyes narrowing. "And what do you propose, scholar? That I trust you simply because your words are clever?" "I propose an alliance," he said, his voice low, steady. "Chang underestimates both of us. You have the skill, the men, the strategy. I have influence, intelligence, and the ability to manipulate the court. Together, we could topple him before he even realizes we have moved." I studied him. Every instinct screamed caution, yet there was truth in his words. Chang's arrogance was his weakness. He believed victory meant loyalty. He never expected betrayal from the one he called his warrior queen. "And what do you want in return?" I asked, folding my arms. "Do you expect loyalty? Devotion? Your secret poems and court intrigues are meaningless on the battlefield." Cui Yan's lips curved faintly. "I want only that we succeed, and that you live to see him fall. I have admired your skill from afar, Enchi, and I have written for you more than the world knows. But admiration is worthless if you are dead." For a moment, I allowed myself a flicker of surprise. Poems. Admirations. A man who had observed me from the shadows, waiting, planning, writing while I bled for my life on the front lines. Something in me warmed, not love, not yet, but recognition. He understood power, patience, strategy. "Very well," I said finally, my voice firm. "We will work together. But know this, I trust no one completely, not even you. Betray me, and you will not survive. His gaze met mine evenly. Then we are agreed. We spent the night planning. I drew maps in the dirt, pointing to weak points in Chang's supply lines, areas where his generals were lax, and choke points we could exploit. Cui Yan suggested political maneuvers, secret alliances with discontented nobles, spreading rumors of Chang's brutality, and sending spies to feed us information. You understand strategy, he said quietly as I traced my fingers over a sketch of the battlefield. But do you understand patience? I understand survival, I replied. And survival is my first priority. He smiled faintly. Then we have common ground. By dawn, the first moves of our plan were in motion. Chang believed himself untouchable, blind to the storm gathering just beyond his reach. And I, reborn, sharper and more determined than ever, felt the thrill of anticipation. This was my second life, my second chance. And this time, Chang would fall, piece by piece, to the woman he had tried to destroy. Dawn broke with a pale, hesitant light, and the air smelled of smoke and damp earth. I stood atop a hill, surveying Chang's encampment through a spyglass. Soldiers moved like ants, unaware that the tide of this war was about to shift beneath their feet. Cui Yan knelt beside me, maps spread across a flat rock. We need to act quickly, he whispered. His supply lines are thin here, he pointed to a winding road, and his lieutenant who guards it is inexperienced. A small strike could force him to divert troops from the front. I nodded. My mind raced, weighing options. I will take my best cavalry. Strike swiftly, then vanish. We give him nothing to anticipate. Cui Yan's gaze lingered on me. And she, remember, subtlety is as important as force. We cannot reveal ourselves yet. Every victory must look like luck, coincidence, or failure on his part. Pride blinds him. I smiled thinly. Pride has always been his downfall. By midday, my cavalry was ready. I mounted my horse, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline. My soldiers looked to me with unwavering trust. They didn't know the full plan, and they didn't need to. They followed my lead because I had earned it, because I had survived battles that would have killed ordinary generals. Remember, I told them, speed and precision. Strike only where I command. Leave no trace that we were here. The attack was swift and brutal. We descended upon the supply route like a storm. Chang's men had no time to react. Wagons were destroyed, provisions burned, and messengers fled in panic. Not a single one of my soldiers was harmed. We vanished as quickly as we had appeared, melting into the forest beyond. When I returned to our hidden camp, Cui Yan was waiting, eyes calm, yet shining with approval. Well done, he said softly. You have reminded the world why you are called a warrior queen. I dismounted, my heart still pounding. And yet this is only the beginning, I replied. He will retaliate, and when he does, he will not know what hit him. Yan nodded. I have begun sowing discord among his advisors and allies. Rumors of betrayal, whispers of incompetence. By the time he reacts, we will already control the narrative. I studied his face, impressed. His intelligence complemented my skill in ways I hadn't anticipated. Together, we were a force far greater than Chang could ever imagine. Do you ever tire of planning in shadows? I asked, letting a faint smile cross my lips. He shook his head. I have waited years for an opportunity like this, to see justice done, to see you safe. I felt a flicker in my chest at his words, quickly suppressing it. There was no time for distractions. Not yet. That night, as I cleaned my sword and inspected the battlefield maps, a messenger arrived. Breathless, he handed me a sealed letter. The seal bore Chang's mark. My fingers trembled, not with fear, but anticipation. He had noticed. He knew something was wrong. I opened the letter carefully. Inside were vague threats, promises of retribution, and arrogance. He underestimated me still, believing the woman he had once tried to kill was gone forever. I crushed the letter in my hand, letting the ink smear across my palm. Let him come, I whispered. I am ready for him. This time, he will not survive my vengeance. Cui Yan's presence beside me was steady. And I will be with you, he said quietly. No one will touch you without my knowledge. Not him, not anyone. I looked at him, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and caution. Trust had to be earned, but he had proven himself already. Perhaps in this second life, I could allow myself an ally. The war was far from over. But for the first time since my rebirth, I felt that victory was within reach. The first sign that Chang was losing control came not with an army, but with silence. For 3 days, no scouts approached our camp. No messengers rode in panic. No skirmishes broke the uneasy calm. I had learned long ago that silence in war was more dangerous than noise. I stood at the edge of our camp at dawn, staring into the fog-covered valley. He's regrouping, I muttered. Cui Yan stepped beside me, his robe fluttering in the cold wind. He is searching for the invisible enemy, he replied. He cannot fight what he cannot see. He will turn on his own men, I said. That's how he is. He never doubts himself, only others. Yan nodded slowly. I have already heard whispers in court. He accused 2 ministers of treason yesterday. One of them was executed before sunset. My jaw tightened. So the lion has begun to eat his own. Later that day, one of my scouts returned, face pale beneath the grime of battle. General, he said urgently, kneeling before me. Chang has moved his central command west. He believes the attacks are coming from the border tribes. I almost laughed. He's chasing ghosts. That night, Cui Yan and I spread our maps across a wooden table lit by a single lantern. He is diverting his main force, Yan said. This gives us a narrow window. To strike his heart, I finished. He hesitated. It will be dangerous. If he realizes. He won't, I interrupted sharply. He never believes I would turn against him. In his mind, I'm already dead. Yan looked at me then, his voice quieter. That night, did you ever wonder why he chose to kill you himself instead of sending you to battle? My hand froze above the map. He wanted to look into my eyes while I died, I said. Power is nothing to him unless he feels it. Yan exhaled slowly. Then let us take that power from him. We planned until the lantern burned low, troop movements, false intelligence, staged retreats. When exhaustion finally settled into my bones, I leaned back, closing my eyes. You should rest, Yan said gently. Sleep doesn't come easily, I replied. Not after knowing how I died. There was a pause. I wrote poems about you, he said suddenly. I opened my eyes. Poems? Yes, he admitted, his ears faintly red. During the war. About a general who fought like fire and refused to bow to fate. My lips curved faintly. You never showed me. I never believed I had the right. For a moment, the war faded. Not the danger, but the weight. The loneliness. Perhaps, I said softly, this life will be different. Before dawn, our forces moved. We struck Chang's treasury convoy, the one carrying war funds to his western command. It was chaos, gold scattering in the mud, soldiers panicking as my cavalry thundered through them like a blade through silk. When we retreated, I knew the message was clear. You are bleeding. And you don't even know where the wound is. By evening, a report arrived. Chang had imprisoned 3 more generals. I closed my eyes. He's unraveling, I whispered. Yan stood beside me. You are winning. No, I replied, gripping my sword. I am reclaiming what was taken from me. The battlefield looked different when you no longer fought for the same banner. I stood on a hill overlooking Chang's advancing army, their black standards fluttering like ravens circling a corpse. These were once my soldiers, men who had followed me into burning cities, men who had cheered my name. Now they marched to destroy me. Your defection has become public, Cui Yan said quietly beside me. Chang has declared you a traitor to the realm. I laughed softly. He called me that on my wedding night too. Yan's jaw tightened. He has sent a message demanding your surrender. He claims he will spare your life. I turned sharply. Spare it? After he stole it once already. I took the scroll from Yan's hands and crushed it without reading. I will not be dragged into his cage again, I said. This time, I fight him openly. That night, I addressed my troops. Faces lit by torchlight stared back at me. Fear, loyalty, uncertainty all tangled together. I was once the blade of the man who now hunts us, I said. I helped him rise, and I paid for it with my blood. Murmurs rippled through the ranks. He betrayed me to claim power. I continued. Now I stand here not as his general, but as your commander, and I swear, on my life, I will never trade your lives for a throne. Silence followed. Then a soldier stepped forward and knelt. We follow you, General, he said. One by one, they followed. Later, Cui Yan found me sharpening my sword alone. You've burned every bridge back, he said gently. I never had a bridge, I replied. He hesitated, then said, If you fall, history will remember you as a rebel. History already tried to erase me, I said. This time, it will write my name correctly. At dawn, Chong's forces attacked. The clash was thunderous. Steel rang, arrows tore through the sky, and I fought at the front line, every strike fueled by memory, of chains, of betrayal, of the cold marble beneath my blood. Anchi, a voice shouted from across the field. I froze. Chong stood atop a ridge, armored in gold, his eyes locked on me. You should have stayed dead, he called. I raised my sword. You should have never touched me. Our armies collided like storms. That day, I did not fight for victory. I fought for myself. Night fell over our encampment, thick and heavy, bringing with it the scent of sweat, smoke, and iron. The battles of the day were over, but my body refused rest. I walked among the soldiers, checking weapons, offering words of encouragement. The adrenaline that had carried me through the clash still pulsed in my veins. Cui Yan found me near the edge of the camp, kneeling beside a wounded soldier. His presence was quiet, almost hesitant, yet I felt its weight immediately. You shouldn't be here, he said softly. I am their general. I replied without looking at him. If I am absent, morale falters. He knelt beside me, his hands hovering over the soldier, as if willing him to heal with a touch. And yet, you push yourself too far, he said. You do not have to bear this alone. I finally looked at him, meeting his calm, observant gaze. You make it sound as if I need protection. Perhaps you do, he said quietly. Not from your enemies, but from yourself. I blinked. Explain. You carry the weight of everyone's lives, he said. You strategize, command, bleed, yet you never allow yourself a moment to breathe. You fight for others so fiercely that I fear you may forget to fight for yourself. His words struck me with more force than any sword. I realized I had never allowed myself to rest, never allowed anyone to see the cracks beneath my armor. Cui Yan had, subtly, patiently seen them anyway. Do you always speak in riddles, scholar? I asked, letting a small smile curve my lips. No riddles, he replied. Only truths you are too brave to admit. We sat in silence for a moment, the distant crackle of the campfires mingling with the whisper of the night wind. Finally, I spoke. I trusted a man who betrayed me. I gave my life for him once, and it was taken. I will not make that mistake again. You won't, Yen said softly, because I will not let it happen. Not again. His hand brushed mine briefly as he passed a water flask. A simple gesture, but it carried the weight of a promise. My chest tightened, not with fear, not yet with affection, but with the first flicker of connection I had allowed myself since rebirth. I've written to you before, he murmured, almost as if speaking to himself. In poems. When you were at the front, when you were invisible to the court, my words were the only way I could reach you. I tilted my head, astonished. Poems? Yes, he admitted, his eyes not leaving mine. I wrote of your battles, your courage, your fire. I waited for the day I could finally speak to you. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel something more than strategy or vengeance. Admiration? Respect? Perhaps even hope. You never spoke a word, I said softly. Yet here you are. Not just watching, not just riding, fighting with me. Yan's hand lingered near mine, a deliberate, gentle closeness. I fight because I believe in you, because I know who you are, and because I will not allow the world or Chong to take you from it again. I swallowed hard, my fingers brushing his. A warmth spread through me, a mixture of trust and unspoken promise. Then we fight together, I said quietly. Not just for victory, for survival. For a future we choose ourselves. He nodded, his eyes dark and steady. Together, he whispered. For the first time since my rebirth, I allowed myself to believe that vengeance and love could coexist. That perhaps, in the chaos of war, we could carve a path not just to victory, but to each other. The night deepened around us, but for the first time, I did not feel alone. We were allies, partners, and maybe something more. The sun rose over the battlefield like a pale witness to the war's end. Smoke lingered, mingling with the scent of blood and iron. Chong's army had been defeated, scattered, and broken, his pride shattered as completely as his command. I stood atop a hill, my armor dented and scorched, my sword heavy, but steady in my hands. Cui Yan was beside me, calm as ever, his presence a quiet anchor against the chaos around us. He's finished, I said, my voice low but firm. Yan nodded, scanning the horizon. The lion has been tamed, or perhaps he is only himself left to fear. I allowed myself a faint, bitter smile. He underestimated me. Twice. Once he killed me. The second time he lost everything. Did you ever think you would survive this? Yan asked, his voice soft, almost hesitant. I didn't survive, I replied quietly. I was reborn. And now I finish what was stolen from me. The remnants of Chong's forces were being rounded up by loyal soldiers, their leaders shackled, their banners lowered. I had imagined this moment countless times during my rebirth, each scenario ending differently, but none as satisfying as this. Victory was ours, and justice was served. Yan stepped closer, his gaze lingering on me. And what now, Anchi? I sheathed my sword and looked at him, feeling the weight of all I had endured. The betrayal, the battles, the sleepless nights, the second chance. Now we live, I said. We rebuild. We choose our own future. His eyes softened, and for the first time, he let his guard fall. You've fought for everyone's survival, he said. Now I will fight for yours. Not just as an ally, but for you. My heart skipped a beat. I had fought beside him, trusted him, relied on him, but never allowed myself to hope. Yet here he was, offering not strategy or protection, but something deeper, something real. I never thought I'd find someone like you in the midst of war, I whispered. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held years of unspoken truth. I wrote for you long before you knew me. I waited for this day, Anchi. I waited for the warrior queen to survive the storm, and now perhaps I can stand beside her. Not behind, not ahead, but with her. I reached out, brushing my hand against his. All this time you watched, you waited, you planned. Yes, he admitted, his fingers covering mine. Because you deserve someone who would never betray you. Someone who would never let you fall. The sun broke through the clouds, bathing us in light, and for a moment, the war and the blood faded. There was only us, survivors of a storm, tempered by fire, standing together on the threshold of a future we chose. Then stay with me, he said quietly. Not as your scholar, not as your advisor, stay as my partner. My equal. My heart. I nodded, a warmth blooming inside me, fierce and undeniable. I will, I said. But know this, if anyone ever threatens this life, this peace, they will face the warrior I have become. He laughed softly, wrapping his hand around mine. Then I will stand by your side. Always. For the first time since my rebirth, I allowed myself to let go of the past. Chong's shadow was gone, burned away by strategy, courage, and vengeance. I had reclaimed my life, my honor, my love, and now I could finally embrace the future, hand in hand with the man who had seen me, truly seen me, all along. We walked down the hill together, soldiers cheering as they recognized their general alive and victorious. I carried not only my sword, but the certainty that I would never again be betrayed, never again be powerless. I was Shunanshi, the warrior queen, reborn and finally free. And beside me, Cui Yan, the scholar, the strategist, and the man who had waited patiently for a lifetime, walked as my partner, my equal, my heart. The war had ended. Our story was just beginning.